Almost everyone in the United States at one time or another has traveled at least a stretch of old Route 66.
It's the road where the people from Oklahoma went to California. It's a part of American history.
Just the name conjures up images of going somewhere.
To me, it's going back in time, seeing things that I grew up with.
So let's travel this Blue Highway all the way from Chicago to Santa Monica. Hello, and welcome to Blue Highways TV, Cruising Route 66. Radio.
66 radio show.
Much like the ribbon of concrete itself, a chain of radio stations through all 8 states, 2,400 miles, and 3 time zones gives the traveler some notion of road and travel conditions ahead. But it also entertains them, no matter what kind of music they like.
I think the aspect of the local flavor of each radio station, beginning like with WLS in Chicago, you could hear that almost all the way down to St. Louis. And interspersed, of course, were the smaller community stations. But the powerhouses, I think, is what linked. I mean, there was always the news and the weather aspect. What's up ahead? What are we going to run into? But the music always gave you this feeling that we're moving to a different part of the country. And as you left Chicago blues and wound up with the bluegrass and the Ozarks, that was so different. And then, of course, you move into the country western music as you travel across Oklahoma and into Texas and New Mexico. And even today, you can tune in the Navajo Nation as you come across from New Mexico through Arizona and listen to a language that nobody can understand except the Navajos. And it's coming right into your car. And that is the neat thing with local radio. What we're hoping to do with the Route 66 radio show is to bring back some of that nostalgia. We cover things that are going on the road today, but I like to emphasize on the nostalgic aspect of it, what the road was like through stories and interviews with people, and kind of give it that down-home feel once again. And we're hoping to link all the way across the 8 states, and we're in progress with that. We met out there by Amboy and up towards Summit, following the bicycle tour, the PAC tour of 2006, the 80th anniversary of the Mother Road. And they're on their way all the way from the pier in Santa Monica to the Navy Pier in Chicago. And for me, it's just it's a privilege to be able to go out and meet these people and talk to them and get a feel for what they think about Route 66. And particularly somebody that's doing it on a bicycle, man, that is so cool.
Well, I like biking Route 66 because it's off the beaten track. Get to see all the small towns that have kind of been decimated by the interstate.
It's fun.
It's the only way to do it, really.
Exactly.
I mean, we need to ride more and drive less.
That's right. It's something different. And not too many people take Route 66 nowadays. This is the 80th anniversary.
Back when I was younger, my family did take a trip out here on 66, but it was by automobile, and I was so young, and there was a lot of things I just didn't remember. This way, you can't get any more intimate than on a bicycle. So I'm kind of like reliving the past a little bit.
I think the bike is the best because you get to enjoy it slowly. If you're driving along, I guess you could do that in the car too, but you wouldn't get the same effect, same feeling. You wouldn't be able to hear the train just coming up the road like it is now. And just the birds. You can hear the crows and starlings and everything else.
There's no secret. You just keep pedaling and have a good time. Take in the sights, look at the lava, look at the trains, look at the trucks. It's great.
You can stop and do things like this, have little activities, little excursions off the road, take pictures, whereas an automobile, you just tend to just keep going.
You come back off a vacation actually with having lost weight, rather than having to think, oh dang, now I got to go and take it all off.
It's one of the best exercises you can do. You can burn a lot of calories. You're using, your total body. It's just a real good workout.
See you later.
I have what has to be one of the greatest jobs in the world. I truly do. I get to travel all across Route 66. We've started the Route 66 radio show now. We've been at that about 3 months. So now I get to go out and not only take photographs and do interviews, but I do audio interviews, which is so extremely cool. So it's these types of interviews and the people that keep the road alive and make it interesting to me, and I think to a lot of the listeners. We get a lot of response from listeners about the interviews. There's other big highways in this nation, there's no doubt of that. But the lure of Route 66, there's just something about it, because you move from the Great Lakes at Chicago, you move to the Pacific Ocean, and you travel some amazing country in between.
Route 66 is returning to the way that it used to be. In some cases, the old road is even better than ever.
More and more people are traveling out and about, and there's a real interest in going places and seeing interesting things, and Route 66 is full of very unusual things. This is going to be the coolest gas station on Route 66. In fact, probably the coolest gas station in America. This building combines both references to the land and the future. And the references to the land are two emerging stone walls about 150 feet long. They go from 0 to 15 feet in height. And then it thrusts forward with a steel roof that cantilevers an additional 100 feet. And the notion of that is the fact that it's emerging out of the soil, which is what the stone walls represent. And then the steel elements are about the future. They're thrusting out there, they're cantilevering 100 feet, which makes it a very powerful landform and architectural statement in this particular place. It will have a collection of 12,000 pop bottles inside. Be a fabulous place to stop, get gas, meet some friendly people, get directions, use the clean restrooms, which is a very important part of it, have a snack or a dinner, if you will, in a wonderful little cafe or a malt at the malt shop.
By the time you see this program, Pop's gas station in Arcadia, Oklahoma will be open and ready for your business. You might check them out next time you're just a little bit east of Oklahoma City. Now, you're in for a treat. When we come back, our friend Dean Walker is ready to take us on a hunt for the Kansas Spook Light. One thing's for sure, when you take to the blue highways, those less traveled roads across America, you better take some time to buy a postcard. Scribble a word or two about your trip and mail it home. Postcards are a great way to remember any journey, and they're also a great thing to collect.
When people travel, I think they like a memento of where they've been, what they've seen, something that's small and portable and inexpensive that they can take home with them and put in an album and remember their vacation. In the United States, postcards started just before the turn of the century. And in the 50s, when every motel and diner and cafe was handing them out free, they really became very popular. They also have a way of being little pieces of art. If you really look at a postcard, very often you'll find one that's been hand-colored or that has a beautiful sky or clouds in the background or something. One thing that makes a Route 66 postcard very collectible is if the place that's depicted on the postcard no longer exists. It becomes quite a collectible item. I happen to love the backs of postcards. They're a little, it's like, I think there's a little voyeur in me or something. And if you read the messages on the back of postcards, it's like delving into someone's diary. The backs are not valuable as far as monetarily valuable, but there are an awful lot of people that do collect the messages on the back. And then, of course, there's stamp collectors, too, who go through postcards looking at just the backs to find interesting stamps. Let's face it, some postcards are just plain ugly. Others are beautiful. But we have to always go back to the fact that they're just little pieces of paper.
If you have a collector car, it shouldn't surprise you, you know, if it breaks down, or when you're going somewhere, you just have to expect that, you know, something might happen and you won't get to where you're going, and you know, if maintenance costs, like if it stresses you out to have to buy a battery for your car, or
Sometimes it's good to park the pickup or sedan, get out on foot, and explore the Mother Road up close and personal. That's the only way you can do it if, for example, you go in search of the fabled Spook Light that dances around the borderlands where Missouri, Kansas, and Oklahoma gently collide on Route 66. And if you go hunting for that Mother Road phenom, be sure to hook up first with a truly unique individual, Mr. Dean Walker, aka the Footman of Route 66.
Well, let's go look for the Spook Light. We're out here in Spook Light country, and we'll see if we can't see it. We're looking for the Spook Light. About 1.5 miles straight ahead, and I'm looking right straight ahead with the naked eye. See if I can't get it focused with my field glasses here. Yep, I got her. Bouncing around down there. There's a radio tower down there, and it's hanging around it. It's just called the ghost light or the mystery light. Right now it's pretty good bright. Just fading out again. Some of them like to come out and park, make relations with their girlfriends. Some of them like to come out and sit with hay rides and watch it. I've seen it about the size of a basketball. I've seen where the red and green and blue fire shooting out of the fossils. It looks like the moon. It can move real good, real fast, or real slow. It can come up and just sit and look at you like it's really watching. We seen it this good one night, drove all the way up there and thought we'd see it again. We never could. Yeah, there's no boy lived out here. His name was Spooky. I forgot what his real name was, but they called him Spooky, and he was about 80 years old then. He died in his late 90s. He had people come out here and line up. He sold all kinds of stuff. Spooky we used to paint himself up with fluorescent paint, like a skeleton. Charged $5 and danced totally nude in his little 12-foot square shack. You ought to see the people cramming that little shack just to watch him dance totally nude. He had hay rides, told ghost stories to kids that came out. Girl Scouts would come out, or Boy Cub Scouts, and he would tell them ghost stories and had them all sitting up there on his telescope bench watching for it. 2 of them right now. There's 2 lights, 2 spook lights floating. Just broke up. Now it went back together. Now it faded out. There it is. Oh, they think it's a spirit floating around. Some said it's somebody had their head chopped off, floating around trying to find its head, and it's a ghost with a lantern walking around. Some say it comes out of Beaver Springs down to Powwow Ground. Some says it comes out of the Catholic cemetery down there on their side of Powwow Grounds. All kinds of spirits floating around out here. You're on Indian ground, so there's all kinds of Indian tales. People ask me how to get out here, and I tell them go out in the daytime where you can see where you're going, and I tell them how to get here. Then they say, boy, you're right, we'd have never found that at night. I can still see it. Barely lit up.
Would you want Dean Walker to take you to see the Spook Light in person? You can reach him right on the shoulders of old Route 66 in Baxter Springs, Kansas. He's in the book. And now, we're going to take a look at some great museums and a spectacular Hot Rod Woody when we return. You're watching Blue Highways TV, cruising Route 66. It seems the Mother Road keeps birthing new museums designed to preserve and protect the highway's rich legacy. Here's a look at some of the newest interpretive centers Route 66 offers. In Springfield, Illinois, in the heart of the land of Lincoln, there's a spectacular attraction that instantly became a must-see. It's the Lincoln Presidential Museum.
Hi, I'm Brian Andresen, a research historian at the Abraham Lincoln Presidential Library and Museum. We hope that when you come to Springfield on Route 66 that you'll stop here to meet the Lincolns and see us at the museum. This is what forensic scientists think that Abraham Lincoln may have looked like when he was 9 years old. Let's go on in and see the rest of what life was like when he was growing up. Lincoln was a lawyer here in Springfield, but he wasn't much of an office keeper, as you can see here. And it got even worse when he brought his sons, Tad and Willie. The Lincolns were known as very lax parents, and their kids could get away with almost anything. Abraham Lincoln moved from a cluttered law office in Springfield, Illinois, to the President's office on the second floor of the White House. Here with his cabinet, they conducted the Union War effort. We have dozens of exhibits like this that dramatize Lincoln's career. Well, I think one of the things that fascinate people about Lincoln is that he's the American dream come to life, somebody that starts low in life and makes something of himself through his hard work and dedication. We try to show that and go beyond to show the challenges that Lincoln faced as president. It's hard for us to imagine that once upon a time he was a very controversial figure, and the decisions he had to make may seem obvious to us today, but they weren't obvious to him in those days.
Dad would come home, Mom would have the car packed. He'd come home on a Friday after work and we'd set out because we had to get across the desert. You had to get across the desert at night. And so the big thing to me was we were going to drive all night long. And in the back seat of the car, I had my stack of Donald Duck comic books and Uncle Scrooge and all those guys. So that was my company on the trip. And of course I had duties. Even as a 5-year-old, it was my job to fill the water bag. The water bag that was always suspended from the front of the car. And it used to puzzle me because we'd stop in Amboy and, you know, I'd have to get out and go fill the water bag. And it was always like, where the hell did that water go? You know, then we get to Needles and it was 104 degrees at 10:30 at night. And I had to fill the water bag. Where the hell did that water go? And he never used the water in it. So I never did figure out where all that water went.
You're not gonna believe this, but I thought that building a Woody was the easiest thing to do. Well, let me tell you guys out there, it's not. Woody is by itself, the car itself. The body is wider and everything on it, handles, everything. There's, I think the Mercury, you can use the door handles from a Mercury, they kind of look alike. But for the back, for the hatch, everything, it's gotta be the Woody. We started building that car there. Chris took us right at 13 months, and I had about $10,000 on just the wood. And then it's got a Camaro front clip under there, disc brakes, Nova, it's all Chevrolet under there. It's got a twin-port injection Corvette motor in it with a 700R. It's got air condition, power windows. It's got XM radio. I mean, it's got everything. I spent about $62,000 doing it myself, most of the thing.
Oh man, this is better than a Cadillac. This thing is awesome, man. This thing is a cruiser. I mean, you fall asleep on this thing if you don't watch it. It's so comfortable, you know, compared to the hot rod, you know. Hot rods, you feel every bump, everything. This one, you don't feel nothing. It just glides on the road, you know.
It's a big satisfaction. It's crazy, but you know, my wife says that I haven't even finished one car and I'm already thinking about what I'm gonna build next. and it's hard to part from them. Let me tell you, it is, especially when you spend a lot of time with them, and you know, and then you start thinking back and says, man, I sure miss my car. You know, I think I'm gonna build another one, and it's a never stopping thing. You know, it just keeps going. It's like the interstate battery. I love what I do. My family's into it. You know, it's a passion. I do it. You know. Once I did the first car and I took it on the road, I mean, that did it. That was a kicker, man. I just had to stay with it. It was like a love affair, you know. I just couldn't be without it. Addiction. And I stayed with it, and here I am still doing it.
It's kind of an experience knowing that when this car was brand new, Route 66 was brand new.
You remember all the things that you used to see along 66? And I can remember going across the desert in 66 with my dad. And all them old water bottles tied on them. It was quite a ride.
Old car, old highway, they just kind of go together.
You still can imagine, go back and imagine what people went through when they went through.
You go up and down the road and you really don't meet no strangers. Wherever you stop, people's asking you questions about your car and, you know, where you're going, and it's just something you enjoy.
And before we leave you, we'd like you to see a little commercial we made that's really not a commercial at all. Yes, it's about a real business, and while Bill Murray is a real car salesman, but this commercial is simply our salute to the hundreds, dare I say thousands, of good, honest, hard-working folks who make their livings along America's blue highways. God bless them all.
You've seen all the videos of the beautiful cars. You want to become a collector yourself? Here's an example of how to get started. Come on down to Country Classic Cars, Russ Knowles Place. We're in between Interstate 55 and Old 66. We have on and off ramps at your convenience and great prices. We have 650 cars and trucks in inventory, something for everyone and in their price range. Right on the off ramp, right on the price.
On my trip from Chicago to LA. Yeehaw! Insanity at its finest, mama. Get your kicks on the mother road.
There it is, our 80th anniversary salute to the cars, the people, and the attractions that make Route 66 the best known highway in the world. Thanks for coming along. Hope to see you soon out on the Mother Road. In the meantime, I'm Michael Wallis. Travel well.